everybody, and welcome to the first Positive Economics webinar of 2021. It's really delightful to be here with you this evening. My name is Susan, and if you have been on any of these webinars before, of course, you will have met me. Just in case for any of you who haven't, I am one of the co-authors of Positive Economics, the book that we put blood, sweat and tears into developing for you so that you could have as helpful an experience as possible from our point of view to enable you to advance towards your study of economics and, of course, the research project. Personally, I'm a practicing economist. I'm also an entrepreneur. I'm somebody that has a number of businesses. So particularly the topic we're going to talk about tonight in terms of employment and the economy is quite close to my heart. Speaking of hearts, what I am going to ask you to do tonight is let's do this together, right? We're going to talk about some policy responses on the part of the government, but let's treat tonight as doing two things, right? Number one is what we're going to do is imagine that the questions I'm going to pose to you come up on a paper. How would you react to them, right? And what we're going to do is I'm going to ask you for your responses through this tool that I have over here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you feedback on them as we go. And then I'm also going to give you some real life examples of what has actually happened in response to this. Now, I am just going to pop this link in the chat. Okay, so can I ask you all, click on that link and head in there. And hopefully then what you should see is that you should land on that page and then press the heart button. And then so that'll tell me that you're in there. Okay, I can see loads of hearts now coming in. Okay, great stuff. Great stuff. That's great. Okay, we're hopping up the numbers there. That's fantastic. So just click on that. Okay, I can see there's 21 in there. There's loads more of you here than that. So just going to give you a moment to do that. So that's the first part of what we're going to do tonight is just imagine the questions that I ask you. So you're going to answer them. I don't know who's answering, but I'm going to see what you say. And then what we're going to do is let's talk through them, right? So let's use these as, you know, sample experiences of being in the exam. And then you get these questions, and then let's also talk about what really has happened. So then the second part, of course, is that then we can imagine, okay, how could we talk about any of these things from the point of view of sustainability? These are, of course, policy responses that I'm going to talk about in respect of things that are happening in Ireland at the moment. So these could also be examples of initiatives and policies that may not necessarily be related to this brief, or maybe they are, as in this research project, or maybe they are. But the point I'm trying to make here is that I just want to give you some real life examples, and then we can talk about sustainability within them as well, because that's what's important. Now, in addition, I am, of course, going to talk about the research project. A range of you have sent me in some questions. As I say, I will answer them on the webinar. So I've arranged them here beside me as well that you've sent me in through DMs on Instagram. By the way, that is my Instagram up there, just on the screen there. That's typically the way if people want to reach me from this environment. I generally find this is the easiest one for you. Of course, I'm on everything else. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm in the lot. All right. Okay. Let's get settled in there. Now, for anybody who couldn't click on the link, right, or maybe you've just joined, the other thing you can do is just go to, look there at the top of the screen and you see menti.com and you see the code in there. That's the other way in which that you can reach this as well, right, because your interaction here is going to be key and critical tonight, okay? So if you go to the top, see there at the top of the screen, it says menti.com. Put in menti.com and then type in the code. So the code is 3249891. And you will, of course, need to go onto a second tab in order to do that. So as I say, that's the way in which we are going to roll tonight. Okay, so far, I can see that 44 of you have liked it there. Hopefully there'll be more will join that, because I see we have almost double that number on right now. And that also can rise as well as time goes on. So here's the first question that I want to ask you, right? What do you want from your workplace? So imagine, I know we've teachers and I know we've students and I know we've people who aren't in Leaving Cert at all here tonight, right? But what do you want from your workplace? Imagine your future career, right? And in your future career, you have a choice. You have the choice to have whatever you want in the workplace, but you have to rank them in order. So what I'd just like for each of you to do is go in and just fix this order according to what you want. And you will see precisely where I'm going when we talk about the impact that employment has in the economy. And of course, conversely, the impact that unemployment has as well. So far, we've one person who has said that they would like the ability to do what they love to do most of the time, every day. And the second thing that they want to do is make an impact on a cause that matters to them. Okay, so I can see two people now. Right, let's see what else you come up with there. So let's just rank this. Okay, let's just rank this. I just want to take the temperature here. Just want to see where you're thinking. All right, so far 8 of you are running the show. And so far, right, of the people that have answered, the biggest answer, the most popular answer right now, or the thing that's most important to this audience is the ability to do what they love to do most of the time, every day. Now, as we talk about employment, you see, we don't just talk about, as you can see here, just money, do we? No, we don't. We don't just talk about money. Employment doesn't just create money. It creates all of these other things as well. And what I'm going to do is there's more people there after joining. I'm going to give you the link there that we're all working on, just for anybody there who's just joined, and there you go. Okay, now, so right, let's talk through here what you've just said. Right, is first of all, you want the ability to do what you love to do most of the time every day. So therefore, employment creates enjoyment. If you're doing a job that you like, okay, it creates enjoyment. It also develops your skills. So here in this environment with you today, I am practicing my presentation skills. I am practicing my economic skills. I'm practicing my technology skills through using the tool that I'm using here with you today. So in each day that I spend within my workplace, I'm upskilling myself so that then when maybe I move on to another workplace, or like in the case of our business, if we're dealing with new customers, I have new skills all the time. So by being in employment, I'm upskilling as well, which enables me to charge a higher price to future clients perhaps, or to earn a higher wage in the future. Second thing, have good work-life balance. And work-life balance is when you work and then you leave work and then you go home. And then, now when I say leave work, of course, today in COVID land, leaving work might mean leaving the sitting room, right? But the point is that within good work-life balance, you have then the money to go on and to do the things that you might want to do. Maybe it's travel. Again, let's leave COVID aside for a moment here. Maybe it's travel, maybe it's play sport, maybe it's hobbies, maybe it's watch Netflix, maybe it's having a family, whatever it is. But by having employment, then of course you have the money to go and pursue other interests outside of work, making an impact on a cause that matters to me. That is third up here on the list. You see, the thing is that there's lots of companies who employ, let's say, sponsor local sports teams, or they'll sponsor charities. The government is a huge employer. It also does a huge amount of work in enabling where other businesses may not. For example, the government has offices all over the world called consulates and embassies, where if Irish people get into trouble abroad, maybe they lose their passport, maybe they get stuck in a disaster of a flood or something and need to get home, or whatever it might be. Now, no private business is going to do that and not charge for it, but of course the government does, and then creates employment for all of the people that work for the government. And again, that's a cause that matters. It's helping Irish people abroad. There's an example. So employment creates opportunities to, place of employment, create opportunities for people and for businesses and for governments to do things that make a difference. And also, by the way, in my world, like, I get to work with teenagers all the time. I run transition year work experience programs for companies where I work with a group of teenagers this week. I was working with a group of teenagers last week, and it's up to me then. I have the ability to work with teenagers to enable them to become more aware of the world of work and more upskilled in their skills around careers, communication, and confidence, and technology, and so much more. Make lots of money, of course, right? Obviously, in employment creates money. And what happens with money? Well, you all know what happens when it comes to national income is we have the marginal propensity to consume. So therefore, we've got the money then moving into the circular flow of income. So money then, of course, gets into people's pockets. Then they go and then they spend the money in shop. They spend the money in a restaurant. They spend the money wherever else. They pay tax to the government, and of course, on and on and on and on and on and on and on it goes. So also, of course, when it comes to employment, it also creates money. Now, do you know what I'm really surprised at? Is that the last one on your list here is that you want to work with great people. Of course, the other thing that employment creates is the opportunity to interact with other people. Maybe it's customers, maybe it's colleagues, maybe it's the public, maybe it's management, maybe it's people on Teams in a different part of the world on Zoom calls, whatever it might be. It also offers friendships and also engagement and so on. Now, I know, by the way, I'm giving you all the good stuff, and I'm not bringing in traffic. I'm not bringing in when it gets too hard. I know, and of course I haven't mentioned tax here. I know all of that. But the point I'm making here is that when employment falls, all of those fall as well. All of those fall as well. And that is why employment is so core to sustainability. And that, as a result, when it comes to the research project, or when it comes to government policy, or when it comes to making decisions at an individual level about the job that I'm going to be in, all of those core 5 things are what's really important to enable me as an individual to be sustainable, financially and otherwise, as a country to be sustainable, as a government to be sustainable, as a company to be sustainable, as an economy to be sustainable. All of these things matter. So this is how employment is so core, right? It really is so core. All right. Right, let's move on then, and let's look at the next question. This is one that really, really matters to all of you studying this subject, right? Because of course you're going to be the people looking at this in the future. Is in what areas do you feel employment will grow in Ireland in the next 5 years? So of the jobs of the next 5 years, what areas of employment do you think are going to grow? Tell me, what do you think, right? So as they come in here, so just imagine, right, just imagine this came up as a question. Now, it may not, of course, it may not. I just came up with this myself, but I'm particularly interested because this affects you guys big time. These, like 5 years, in 5 years time, you will be 2 years past your leaving cert, perhaps 3 years past your leaving cert, 4 years past your leaving cert. You'll be very, very close to joining the employment landscape, the world. Okay, we've got 5 answers so far. So I just want to hear your thoughts, right? I just want, and I'll tell you mine. I'll tell you mine very clearly. I'll tell you where I think it's going. Okay, 17 answers so far, right? Let's see what you have got to say here. There's 2 key areas for me, where I think there's going to be a lot of growth. 2. So I just want to see what you say first. Okay, loads and loads of them coming in here. Again, I see that more people have just joined us. I'm just going to pop the link there into the chat. This is the one that we're all interacting on. This is where we're brainstorming here together. Right, so let's just see here what you think. You think, okay, one of the ones I totally agree with, technology. Absolutely, I agree with you. I really do agree with you. I think in terms of, so you're saying IT jobs, technological areas, technology, IT, technology, okay, technology and research, IT, e-commerce, which is kind of technology, online business, online work. Oh, yeah, I agree with you. For a start, I think there will be lots more jobs in technology. There's another area that few of you are talking about, which is fine. This isn't the actual leaving cert after all. This is simply having a chat. Let's get some ideas here together. So you're telling me psychology and mental health services, yeah. It certainly is in demand, and it's a most worthwhile job. Engineering, medical and environmental, actually to that person, you have hit in an area that I was going to say, and that is the actual area of sustainability. Whether that's environmental, whether that's social, or whether that's governance, ESG is an area where there's an awful lot of growth, particularly, and I know we've spoken about this a lot on our webinars, and of course we also talk about it a lot here as well in chapter 3, which is, and there's a particular thing I'm looking for, of course you probably all know what I'm going to say here, which is the sustainable development goals. Like I work with companies directly on the various different new funding type of models that's based around clean energy. I'm talking to a lot of companies now who are truly watching their environmental impact, but they need people with skills in order to be able to, number 1, improve it, and number 2, measure it. Do you know a book, actually, sorry, here's a book I was reading over Christmas. This is a book I was reading over Christmas. I'm going to do a book review on it on my own channel on Facebook. That's why I have it here. Is The Future We Choose, about surviving the climate crisis. This was my reading over Christmas, all around it wasn't just about what we need to do around the environment, but the choices that we have in order to move forward. And by God, is there going to be a lot of employment around that area with people who are specialists in it and who are passionate about it. What else have we got going on over here? Green energy, yeah, agree. I really do agree. Financial sector, I'm going to particularly talk to you about that as well tonight. Yes, I agree. Microbiology, disease prevention, I mean, yeah, healthcare, not just because of COVID, right? Not just because that COVID is, we need the vaccine and everything. It's because we're living longer. And if we're living longer, well, of course, if we live longer, we want to be healthier. So, and people are willing to put money into their healthcare, particularly at later stages where they can be independently living as well. So I agree with you. Healthcare and health tech and med tech, medical technology. Yep, I agree with you. Social media industry, the technology industry. Yeah. Social media has a whole, it's only, yeah, there's an awful lot of jobs there developing. 4-day working weeks. Yeah, interesting. Pharma, tech, environmental engineering. Love the idea. Yeah. Service sector, tertiary sectors such as technology and services. Yeah, you're on the ball here, guys. Pharmaceutical, agriculture. Yeah, you're on the ball. You're on the ball. Now, so here's where we see employment growing. Now, as a government, right? As a government who might need the help of an economist, we're going to have a chat later on about how do we prepare Ireland to be able to get ready for this? Because if all these jobs are out there and we're not skilled and ready to take them, they're going to go elsewhere. And this is the challenge. This is the actual challenge facing the Department of Business, Employment and Skills right now. This is what their Department Business, Employment and Innovation, sorry, DBEI. This is precisely one of the things that they're looking at right now. Pascal Donoghue, the Minister for Finance, is also, of course, going to be thinking, well, where are the tax revenues, where are the income tax is going to come in years to come? What we're talking about here tonight is ultimately a challenge or an opportunity, depending on the way you look at it, that they're turning to economists to answer. Now, another question for you though, because we have another thing going on here, is what about this question? Now, I've asked you a different one, which is in what areas do you feel employment will decline globally? I didn't just ask in Ireland. Globally, where do you think employment will decline? Where do you think? Because the challenge now for an economist is, if this is going to affect people, how do we get ready to transition them into new careers? So what are the ones we need to watch out for here? What do you think? Again, I'll tell you what I think, but I just want to hear your thoughts first. This is a very, it's a very, very serious issue. Very, very serious issue that's facing the world at a pace, yeah, at a pace. And of course, bear in mind that we are now in a world which you probably saw the news there last week, is that now there could be new legislation coming into Ireland, enabling employees to request to work from home. So now, rather than it just being the exception or just being what we do during lockdown, maybe it could become more mainstream. What do you think? What do you think over here? Yeah, again, I can see more and more people joining. You're all really, really welcome. I'm just going to click there. This is the link that we're all tuning in on. Okay, I can see so far we've got about 24-ish type of, and you've got a lot of more work to do tonight now with me. I've a number of questions like this that is really all about how we can make this happen. Right, let me just see. Banking and retail. I wonder whether that person means in the terms of the actual physical building. So are we going to do our banking online? Are we going to do our retail online? Okay, it's good point. In-person consultancy. So do you mean the service would continue, but just not to be delivered in person? You mean boutique clothes shops, non-renewable energy production? Yeah, it's an interesting one. And already you can see that happening. Sunglasses, no, I'll be keeping mine. Agriculture, okay. Now, of course, the percentage of people employed in agriculture in Ireland has fallen, and when we look at where, and of course, we are talking here about globally, so that is what matters. Let me see what else you're saying here. The hospitality sector, interesting. So do you think people will go on fewer holidays, or will they be less inclined to travel in the next 5 years? Manual labor, okay. Entertainment industry, okay. Anything that can be automated, done by machines or computers for cheaper. Now that's an interesting point. Already McKinsey says, McKinsey is a consultancy, somebody else mentioned there. Already McKinsey says that 45% of what we do in work today can be automated. That's not to say 45% of jobs. That's not to say that at all. That's 45% of the work that we do. So I'll give you an example, right? So in our business, our bookkeeper, way back, right? Beginning of the business, right? So way back, about 8 years ago, she would have got receipts, scanned them in. No, she would have got receipts and made sure that they were all organized in a folder, brought them to the accountant who would have created a set of accounts. 3 years ago, she would have scanned all of those into a Dropbox folder and given them the link. 2 years ago, we got accounting software where she was not scanning them and sending them to the accountant, she was putting them into the software. Today, Today, we have a piece of artificial intelligence that is linked to the bank account that can read the transactions coming in and automatically update and look for my bookkeeper's approval. See, that can be automated in terms of accounting. Now, accountants, by the way, they still have so much more value to add in terms of analysis and guidance and direction and advice and so on like that. But the point is just as this person says here, anything that can be done and automated, done by machines or computers for cheaper. You see, this is the thing, is that, so then, if that can be done, well then, how do we reskill these people? This is going to be our challenge tonight, okay? Airline industry, an interesting point. Will fewer people travel? Maybe because of the environmental impact, or maybe we'll just get used to not traveling. Maybe we'll go by train instead. Maybe we'll staycate more. Retail shop managers, cashiers in shops. I don't know if any of you have ever been to a McDonald's. I have been to one in Amsterdam airport anyway, where there aren't people taking your order. It's like a big iPhone taking your order. Human production, cashless society, oil and gas. Load of you here are clearly looking at the non-environmental sector, or the sector that is, I suppose, hard on the environment, that its days are numbered. Logging, yeah, I'd agree with you there, because other things can do that. Again, it can be automated. Primary sector, petrol and diesel car industry, production of face masks, hopefully. Sharp. Well done indeed. Okay, so I have to say, if there's one area that I think is under pressure, it is the area of driving. Now, not necessarily in 5 years, but in 20, will anybody still be driving? Will anybody be driving on their own? So if we're going to have self-driving cars at that stage, think of delivery drivers, think of Deliveroo, think of Uber, think of taxis, think of trains. Think about it, driving. If we have driverless cars, why do we need a person to drive? And then you think it's 7% of people employed in certain parts of the world, and a lot of them are male. By the way, my own dad is a delivery driver for a builders providers company in Cork. I would wonder about Dad's job, let's say in 20 years' time. Now, Dad will be retired by then, but the point is that that's another area. So how do you reskill all those people who are skilled in delivery driving and driving itself? Dad's won awards for drivers for driving, but also he's got that way in which he interacts with customers and so on like that as well. What do we do then? How do we reskill these people? Right, so now that we've looked at employment, and remember, now as an economist we need to figure out, okay, number one, how do we actually prepare the country to take on the new employment opportunities that are coming? However, how do we also reskill the people who are in sectors that are moving into decline? And this is the real challenge of real economists right now. And not just real economists, even people like me. I'm thinking, okay, how do I prepare our business to be able to look and to be able to meet the demands of sectors in the future? This is the reality. It's an exciting reality, but it's the reality. Now, the thing is, when we look at unemployment right now, I got this figure, the latest figure right now is from the CSO, and look here, so the unemployment in December 2019, the unemployment rate was at 4.7%. And of course, down here in December, it was 7.2%, remarkably higher. However, if you take into consideration, if you add in all the people who are on the PUP, the pandemic unemployment payment, of course, we have 1 in 5 people who were unemployed by December 2020. Now, we all know, because we've spoken about this before in these webinars, we all know that the pandemic unemployment payment and then the employment wage subsidy scheme, they were the initiatives the government took to manage the short-term unemployment crisis, which is there looking at us. That's what they took in order to preserve the sustainability of the economy, simply from a financial side, simply to enable people to have enough money to pay their rent, pay for food, pay for everything. And it was also to prevent companies having to let go of their staff and then rehire them, and maybe other people then aren't available, and also then to be able to preserve people with certain jobs so that their skills don't go out, and all these sorts of things. So look, we all know about COVID, and we all know about the way in which these policies have worked in the past and how they're working. And of course, there's an awful lot of information about that on the research study link as well, the link that they gave from I have it up here, the NESC, wasn't it? Yeah. And also as well from the European Commission area also. So as a result of that, I'm not going to elaborate anymore, but this is obviously the real short, immediate term issue. You may have seen the news that just came out tonight. They are talking about extending level 5 into the end of February, and the hospitality sector could be out much further than that as well. So this, of course, is a very, very key area that the government has to look at, and economists do as well. But also, the other thing then is, as I mentioned, the work from home, the work from home and new legislation that's coming in. That marks a huge change in the way Irish workplaces work and how they interact, and the rights and the responsibilities of workers and employers. So that is today's issue, right? But I also have 3 policy challenges that I want to put to you. 3. Now, Martin asked me here, is the pandemic unemployment payment considered a social payment? It's considered a social welfare payment. Yep, that's where it comes in and falls under. So that would be from the Department of Social Protection. That's where you'd see the updates on those figures that come out quite regularly. All right, now, what we're going to do here now for 3 case studies, right? So again, imagine this came up in the paper, right? I'm going to give you a problem, an economic problem that either is in Ireland or has been in Ireland. I'm going to ask you for a solution, and then I'm going to tell you what actually happened, right? So I'm going to tell you a problem. We have 3. I'm going to tell you a problem, an economic problem that I'm asking for your insight on. Number 2, I'm going to ask you what you think would be a good idea. And remember, like, all ideas are just valid, right? Let's just get in there. Let's just get thinking economically. And then number 3, what we're going to do after that then is I'm going to tell you what happened. So I'm going to tell you what actually happened, what the government did or what industry did or whatever. Right, let's get started into our first one then. Right, so here's the problem. We need people to upskill to meet employment opportunities in the economy, right? This is our problem. How? You said it. You guys all said it. You said in terms of IT, in terms of medical, in terms of environmental areas, in terms of a load of different areas, medical, pharmaceutical, you said. You said online business, you said e-commerce, you said all these things. How do we get people to shift their skills so that they're ready in e-commerce, that they're able to code, that they're able to deliver online learning like you and me are doing right here now? How do we get people to upskill, right? So what do you think? What do you think, right? Now, the picture I chose here, right? So I just want to hear your thoughts. The picture that I chose here is actually of Texas. I love Austin in Texas. I've been here a number of times. The reason I put up the picture though is that is the fastest growing city in America. So Austin, Texas right now is dealing with the issue you're talking about, which is there are so many new companies setting up in Texas. San Francisco in some cases got too expensive. So now what they're doing here is the place is growing, the city is growing, it's expanding. And how do they make sure that people are upskilling? So what are your ideas? We have 3 so far. Let's give you another minute there now. Let's think about it. And I'll tell you what the government is actively doing. This could be actually of relevance to anybody, anybody who's not Leaving Cert or TY or 5th year student tonight. Maybe some of you who are interested in economics, maybe some of you teachers, by the way, who are here. Maybe also what I'm about to tell you might be of interest to people that you know who are upskilling, reskilling, cross-skilling. 15 answers here so far. Okay, let's hear it. Let's hear it. Okay, 20 answers, right? So just imagine this is the question that's facing you on the paper, and you have to think through here. Let's just see what you guys say. All right, so we got 25 responses there. Let's take a look there and see. And as I say, what I'm going to tell you is what is actually happening currently in Ireland, which is, in my opinion, a great initiative, and it works. And I'm going to tell you all about it. As I say, it could be of use to some of you. All right, let's take a look. What are you saying? Training courses, okay. Provide sufficient infrastructure, okay. Give grants to encourage people to go and learn new skills. Government-funded training courses, subsidies, grants to study, train, or promote immigration, of course, yeah, to bring in the skills. Invest in education, reduce direct tax, okay. Start broadening the subject range in secondary schools, allow the students to play to their strengths. Interesting. By the way, economics was actually not available in my school. I only studied economics when I went to college. I went to NUI Galway to study financial maths and economics. By the way, guys, anybody there, a load more people there have just joined. So I just want to place the link. There's the link there if you want to join in. Provide training course, create night classes, courses for adults to upskill in tech, tax breaks, training grants, meet with employers, see what they need. That's, yeah, exactly. Actually talk to employers and say, well, what are you looking for? Have a dialogue, have a conversation about this. Offer incentives for courses and allow for easy transfer of employment. Interesting. Create an online portal to let people avail of upskilling opportunities. Interesting. 4 days working week and 1 day upskilling. PLCs that are post leaving cert courses. Free education courses. Now, of course, there are an awful lot of free education online courses as well, like MOOCs, MOOCs, massively open online courses, like that are available from Harvard and great places, that are all freely available. All right, I love what you're saying here, right? That you're great. What you're saying here really hits the bill. Like, train people, give people the opportunities, give people funding to do it, or else make them free, or else subsidize them. Talk to employers. What are they looking for? I'll give you one scenario. I did say I'd come back to you about finance there a while ago. Remember, like, Brexit has implied that there's an awful lot of rules and regulations that the UK is no longer on the same terms as let's say any other EU country like Ireland. So there's been a lot of finance jobs has come in to Ireland as a result of this, and I just want to pick up on that point again in a moment. But the point I'm making here is, like, whether it's more digital, whether it is we are now putting more focus on sustainability, whether it is the EU agenda is now focusing on innovation, so there can be outside forces as well as what's going on here. Right, I love these ideas, right? I love these ideas. You're obviously really good at this, and it'll be interesting to hear your see what you come up with on the second point as well. I'm going to tell you what actually the government has done, right? And this is available right now. Is this Springboard? Springboard is what you're all describing. So Springboard, so I'm actually a lecturer on one of the Springboard courses, so I really know a lot about this, right? So Springboard is, as you can see here, right? So it's a government-funded body, and the whole idea here is that there's Springboard courses available in, like you're suggesting, IT, digital marketing, or data analytics, right? But there's one Springboard program that I'm part of, which is around global capital markets. So my business, right? So one of our businesses is that we're a training company. We work with another training company and with Ulster University, and the three of us together have worked together with the funding from Springboard to offer people full university, not post-leaving cert courses, postgraduate courses. So this is after they do a degree, right? Because that's the thing. It's not just about getting graduates out of college. You need people who are 30 to change, to reskill, people who are 40, people who are 25, people who haven't changed career in 20 years. You also need that type of shift. So, but wait until you hear about how the funding works. If that person is unemployed, it costs them nothing, and they get a full university course. So in my case, the Global Capital Markets one, it's 2 semesters long. So I started off with my new group, my new university students last Monday night. They're doing 2 nights a week with me. Everything, of course, is online. And then next semester, they'll have a different lecture in different areas. And then at the end of it, they will have a Ulster University postgraduate degree, or postgraduate cert, sorry. Now, and therefore, they will be more ready to take on these new financial services jobs. But like, there's lots and lots of this going on. Look at them here. Like 9,094 places have been offered, 99 courses, 27 providers. I'm just telling you about one course. There's loads about data analytics, about digital marketing, entrepreneurship. Really interesting to look at that website, because there you'll see where the jobs of the future are, because of the courses that this organization is funding. And you know what else is wonderful, right? Is this doesn't create a new school or a new anything. It brings together what's existing. The existing universities, the existing training companies, the existing providers, and creates an infrastructure to bring all these together. So for anybody who's here tonight and saying, I would like to, I know of somebody who's trying, maybe they're facing unemployment, or maybe they're in unemployment, or maybe somebody who says, you know what, I can't do an awful lot at the moment because of level 5. I'd love to upskill myself doing something. Tell them about Springboard. Tell them, check out the courses there. Maybe they want to learn coding. Maybe they want to learn whatever. So if you're unemployed, it costs 0. If you are in employment, it costs 10%, and the government pays for the rest. So exactly what you're describing is what's happening. This is the government policy right now that's in implementation to create the jobs of the future. Okay, great. It's a good case study in itself. So, and remember, this is all about sustainability. How do we make courses available that are relevant for tomorrow's employment landscape? Now, Michelle has just, good woman yourself, Michelle has just shared. I'm going to share that in the chat there, Michelle. She just sent this message here to me. This is something that was launched 2 days ago. Okay, cool. Let's take a look at that there now. I'm just going to pop this there in the chat. Thanks, Michelle. I'm going to take a look at that. I'm going to take a look at that there now myself. But you're right. I mean, this is the whole idea. Oh, that looks great. I'll just bring it over here and I'll show you that. Picking the right course, apprentices, free. There you go, free online courses. This is brilliant, Michelle. Thanks a million. Learning new skills, retraining, career guidance and information, social protection and other supports, and help your staff develop new skills. That's brilliant. That's really, really good. Yeah, that's fantastic. And that was only launched 2 days ago. Thank you. Thank you very much indeed for sharing that. Right. So that's how we handle our first conundrum, right? And of course, that's not to say that that's perfect, but it's an example of bringing things together. Like, think about the principles of what I'm saying. Providing funding, only providing funding for jobs where there's going to be, where there's a demand for tomorrow's employment. Enabling people who are unemployed to be able to have full funding, but those who are in employment already, that they contribute a little, but not a whole lot. And also bringing together existing parties to, rather than creating something new and putting a competition in against existing training providers, give the training providers the infrastructure to move on. All right, second question, second problem is this. We need to encourage more young people to take on STEM subjects in secondary school, right? This is, I'm moving to the industry now, right? Let's move away from the government now for a moment, right? So this is where industry is saying, oh, we have such a shortage of people to take on STEM jobs. STEM, of course, is science, technology, engineering, and maths. Personally, I did, as you know, financial maths and economics. So I studied STEM. I studied STEM subjects. My leaving cert was Irish, English, maths, applied maths, physics, chemistry, accounting, and French. As I said, economics wasn't available in my school, but that was okay. I was well able to catch up. But then I, as I say, went on and I did my maths degree and on from there. But the thing is that there's 1 million jobs currently unfilled around the world in cybersecurity alone, and well-paid ones as well. There are, when you look at the rates of unemployment in the US, people who work in STEM, the likelihood, they're 50% less likely to be unemployed than the general public. So why is it that young people, and obviously I know who I'm talking to, right? So why is it that young people aren't advancing forward? By the way, when I say STEM, I don't just mean biology and physics and chemistry. I'm talking about technology, construction, and also I go as far as well to say like maths, applied maths, all that. So the first thing that any good economist should do is understand why the problem exists rather than just trying to solve it. So that's where we're going to start this time. So the question is, why do you think there aren't more students picking STEM subjects in school? And remember, as an economist, you could be also looking at questions around medicine, like maybe it is the cost of rolling out a vaccine, or maybe it is that you're looking at construction. Is that how do you create appropriate housing to meet a housing demand or shortage in a certain area? So let's just uncover here. So you might often, as an economist, have to look at other subjects around. So for example, my area that I've worked in for a long time is applying economic thought to finance. So I've particularly, as I mentioned, I've done my CFA exams, and that's what I did after college, a good bit afterwards, my chartered financial analyst ones. And that's where I was looking at things like the stock market and the financial markets and how money moves between governments and people and companies and individuals and all sorts. So let's just see here. Why do you think there aren't more students picking STEM subjects in school? I'm not going to ask you to solve this problem, by the way, right? I'm just going to ask you, why do you think the problem exists? And then I'm going to show you an industry response. So how is industry responding to this? And I'm only going to pick Ireland. I could pick this globally. I could talk to you for ages about the work that companies are doing around the world. I was talking to a woman the other night. I'm interviewing her for a conference that I'm emceeing. So MC is the moderator. It's the person who asks the questions. I'm the Ryan Tubridy of this conference. So I was talking to her the other night, and would you believe this now? She works on Mars, like not actually on the planet, but she works managing a robot that's landing in Mars on the 18th of February. She's based in Los Angeles, so she works in the space station, and she actually works. So she manages the robot to collect the data in Mars. She is so excited about her career. I never spoke to someone who works, in space literally before. All right, let's just see now let's understand why the problem exists, right? Let's just have an understanding why the problem exists. And in your research study, this is ultimately what you're trying to figure out, is why is there a connection between your aims of your inquiry and your research? Is like, why does this happen? Why? Let's take a look and see what you have to say. All right, it seems too difficult. Maths is made to be unattractive subject in school, so people didn't want to continue with that. Really, that's interesting. Lack of education of job opportunities, and the fact, there really isn't a lack of them. There really and truly is. And I think definitely that's a perception that's out there. STEM course requirements are often too high, like a H4 in maths for engineering. Okay, perceived as hard subjects. Yeah, and do you think, do they deserve that though? Do they deserve that? Again, like a lot of what you're saying here is the perception. And by the way, perception is reality. Like what people see is what people see. Whether things are genuinely different, they have to see that. And not available in their school, of course. Yeah, like as I say, economics wasn't available in school. Would I consider economics a STEM subject? Probably not. But there's a lot of logical thought, like being an engineer and being an economist. My brother's an engineer. Is that we both have to think logically, but my application, where his application is to buildings, my application would be to the world, would be to business problems, to the stock market. So, but our thinking, our logic, and also he's far more into design and how things look visually, and I'm more into the experience created for people as well. Gap between junior and senior cycles in the subjects. Okay, can't use prior knowledge in these subjects in most cases. Yeah, I see what you mean. Like I always say, economics, just love the subject because you can study it watching telly. You can watch prime time. You're actually studying. You are. They're actually pure boring. Like I have to say, I don't agree with that. But you know what? That's fair enough. I personally, my latest career development is tech. I have to say, in the last couple of years, and I've really got far more into tech, and I think technology, and particularly now, my latest is artificial intelligence within technology. Fascinating. Narrow choice of option subjects at school. Yeah, hard subjects, they require understanding, not rote learning. I do agree with you. I do agree with you on that. And I will say, in my own case, I was much more able to learn if I understood. I couldn't learn rote. I just didn't have the space in my head. But understanding wise, I could do it. And if it was there, it was locked in. Okay, I don't think STEM subjects and jobs are encouraged enough in all girls schools. Interesting. Stigma for girls, lack of confidence, fear of it being difficult or boring. Yeah. Okay, right. So now let me now tell you an industry response, right? So this is what the government did, this is what an industry did. Let me go on there now and I'll tell you about this. By the way, guys, you are doing amazingly well at coming up with doing exactly what an economist does, which is identifying problems, looking at linkages, coming up with solutions. So here's what the industry did. This one. This was something that I was actually part of, that I presented at. And wait until I tell you who was presenting with me. Just wait, right? STEM Southwest, now this is available to you all the recordings and everything, but STEM Southwest is an initiative by a lot of the pharmaceutical companies like Johnson & Johnson and a lot of the pharmaceutical companies in Cork. They all came together to speak about careers, let's say, in medical technology. And then there was a range of other, you know what was very, very strong in here was, you know what you were saying earlier about the environmental engineering, or how to create green energy, or how to create finance for green energy, or how to work with communities around green energy, because all of that relates in there. There was loads of people who came from everywhere, and they had loads of well, you can see it there. They had loads of industry and career, and there was speakers and there was interactive activities, and there was also a lot of people who work in the area sharing their experience, and there was lots of information for career guidance counsellors. But you know who, to wait until I tell you, do you know who was also speaking at it? Do you remember Adam? Do you remember Adam from the Late Late Show? He was the first speaker at it. What a legend. Legend. He's a legend. You can see he was speaking there, and his brother and sister on both sides, and his sister is Katie. And she was speaking as well. They were encouraging everyone, you know, to go for their dreams, and if they want to go to space, then they should really keep working and never give up on their inspiration. And like, Adam is 8. No, yeah. And Katie, I think Katie is 10, his sister, and oh my God, they were just brilliant. So if you want to see Adam being interviewed about his career, he's fabulous. He really, really is. And of course, he did virtual hug, and he's just legend. So this was an industry response. Is the industry said, look, based on what you're saying, we need to show people that there are jobs. We need to show people there's exciting jobs. We need to show people what type of whether they actually need higher level maths to go and work as an engineer. We have to show people that there's lots of companies that are like 3D printing, right? I'll tell you about 3D printing. That's an area we should all be watching in terms of the demand for employment in the future, and that could change everything. Imagine this, right? Imagine if we could print food. Think about it. Imagine if we could print food. Imagine if we could print plates. Imagine if we could print body parts, because that's what these companies are doing. Right now, Dupuy in Johnson & Johnson can print. They're actually getting ready to print pieces of hips that will go in to somebody's body so that then they won't have to import them from abroad. Think about that, what that would do for supply and demand. Think about it. If we could print food, we could rid the world of hunger, or could we? And what would that do then? Some of you mentioned there about agriculture. Just think about it. So this is what engineers out there are doing, and they need economists to say, what would that mean for the world? What would that mean for employment? What would that mean for raw materials? What would that mean for travel? What would that mean for technology? Who would fund that? Who would that hurt? Who would that help? These are all actually the real world issues. This is why the STEM sector, in essence, needs people like you and me, is to think through these solutions and think through these problems from an economic point of view. They can't just be science or technology or engineering or maths on their own. They need us too. So, but that was an industry response. So the industry funded this program. The industry funded the website. The industry put on the whole event, and so on and so on. So that's there. If anybody wants to check that out, particularly any of you like maybe confused about CAO and stuff, I did a CAO workshop in there, where I ran one about the 6 questions to ask yourself as you're filling out the CAO, which I know is really, really close right now. Okay, third problemo is this one. Small businesses are nervous about taking on full-time staff, right? They're nervous because what if we don't have the work that's coming in, and like, you know, what if I only need someone 4 hours a day, and what if I need someone like full-time for 2 days a week, and then what if I don't get my good staff? What do I do? Or look, do you know what? Maybe I shouldn't, and I just turn down some business, or maybe I just work harder myself. I used to be like that, by the way. I used to say that. I used to say, look, what if we don't get the business in the future? And what? Oh my God, could you imagine ever firing somebody? And what if, what if? So small businesses are genuinely nervous about taking on full-time staff, because what if they don't have the flow of work? What if something like lockdown, what happened last March, we lost loads of business in 48 hours. And we had to work very, very hard to build that back up again and switch to being able to be totally more digitally enabled than we ever were before. So how do we encourage, at the end of the day, we have got 1 million jobs in this country. 1 million jobs in this country are by small businesses. They're actually by the small and the SME sector, small and medium enterprises. 1 million. There's only 2 million people at the height of our time. There was 2.23 million people, 2.3 million people at the height of employment in Ireland. 1 million of those was small and medium enterprises. 1 million. That's a lot of jobs. So if we can continue to encourage small businesses to take on staff, that makes a massive difference. And also, of course, those small businesses are everywhere. They're not just in Dublin or in the cities. They're all over the place. They're in every town and village in Ireland. So it also creates rural opportunities and all of the things that we mentioned there at the beginning. So what do you think? How do we help solve this problem? Now, by the way, when I was looking for pictures of this, right, of course, I found loads of them where there's loads of people sitting in the same room. And that kind of would have been quite insensitive right now. So this is what employment looks like today. So what do you suggest? How do we encourage small businesses to take on more people? And I'm going to give you 2 answers. 1 is what the Irish government is doing, and 2 is what's happening at the European level. Because of course, the research study asks you to go beyond. It's in some case, one of the research study is all around Ireland. The other one, you can go as far as you would like. So what do you think? Okay, so by the way, there's a couple of people there who have just asked me about the link. By the way, is in the chat. The link that I'm talking about there, the Mentimeter link, how you can interact with us there on everything. Get that for you now. I'll just post it there again. The link is in the chat, and also you can always go to the link up there at the top of the screen as well, which is menti.com, and put in the code. But all the same, now there it is. Let's just see now what you are going to say. 16 responses. By the way, what you've been doing this evening is genuinely the work of an economist. Genuinely, genuinely. This is, as I say, this is what's going on. Again, this is another challenge. This is another challenge that is faced. Oh, this is another challenge that is faced by the Department of Business, Employment and Innovation right now. Right now. Okay, 17 responses. Okay, I'm just going to give you another couple of seconds. Just think, what do you think? What can we do? How do we encourage more small businesses to take on staff? Full-time. Full-time. Or, well, no, there is no or. That's the question. That's the question. That is the question. "20 responses. Okay, let's get in there and let's see what they are right now. Okay. Right, government support, grants, government investment and incentives, grants for businesses, give tax cuts to small businesses, right? Government subsidies to small businesses, but partner with larger businesses. That's a very innovative idea. I'd like to hear more about that. Force them. Oh, believe me, it's hard enough to be in business without forcing us. Subsidies, EU and government grants, lower the minimum wage. Ooh, right, that now would be a controversial one. Provide incentives like JobBridge. Exactly like JobBridge was the way you could take on somebody who was unemployed for a small amount of money. Yeah, that's an example. Yeah, now that's what we used to do before. I'm going to give you 2 examples of today. Create a system for small businesses so that they can get financial help from the government if needed. Okay, wage subsidies, subsidies and tax relief. Okay. Lower employer PRSI or offer grants to employers to encourage employment. Yeah, these are all great. It's case to case for the business. Okay, sorry, that one just jumped off there. I'll read it again when it comes up. Offer tax incentives to hire full-time employees. Overall, this will result in a surplus due to people on higher wages and not requiring social welfare. Exactly. Yeah, good idea. Good idea. Employ more young people on graduate programs who will become employed with that company when their program finishes. Yeah, and so it's a good idea too. Particularly graduate programs are very good at giving lots of people some insight all over the sector. Now, let me just read this one here. Create a safety net of sorts of jobs are lost when a small business shuts down to ensure business their staff will be taken care of in any case. Yeah, and then there's that as well, is that if the company can take care of the staff, let's say for redundancy or something like that, the government would step in. Okay, case to case, but I feel the IDA needs to continue to offer support to businesses with grants alongside with government, providing the backbone of the PUP if they implement lockdown again. And the IDA, of course, is focused on bringing foreign direct investment into Ireland as well. Okay, right. So what I am now going to show you is 2 things that are actually happening. Now, one of them is kind of very similar to what a lot of you are saying, which is this, right? This is the idea of the employment grants. And I'm going to show you very, very clearly exactly how this works, right? So I'm just gonna pull it up here for you. So the way this works is that you can apply for a grant for your business, right? And specifically to employ people. And the thing is, though, is that I had this ready for you, and it's after just jumping off my screen. So I'm just going to make sure that I get that there now for you again. Expenditure grants. Yeah, there we are. All right, so I'm just going to pull this over here and show you. So look specifically the way it is, right? I'm just going to zoom right in there so you can see. So it says that when we look at salary costs, here we go. Subject to 50% limit, so they will only subsidise up to 50%. A maximum grant of €15,000 per full-time job created shall apply. So you can get €15,000. That's a maximum of 50%. So if you take on somebody and you're paying them €60,000 a year, you'll still only get 15,000. If you take on someone and you're paying them €24,000 a year, you'll get 12,000. And the support is provided specifically for the 50% limit. And also, as I say, up to a maximum of 15,000. Now, there's other. That's not for every business. That there's specific businesses. There's other terms and conditions apply up there as well. But I just wanted to show you that that's an example of something that happens. So there's a maximum amount that you can get. per employee. It has to be full-time, and also it's up to 50%. So the maximum is either the amount or it's either the percentage, one or the other. So that makes sure that then taxpayers' money is being spent on creating jobs that possibly may not happen otherwise. And of course, on the other hand, then creates money, as well as all the other things that I mentioned, upskilling by being in a job, also the interaction that people have, and anyway, and everything else as well. However, that's not all, right? That's not the only thing that an employer needs. I can tell you this from experience, and that is that you also need this. You also need how to actually manage people. You also definitely need to know how to manage people as well. So this is something, like when I imagine this, right? Imagine if I said to you, right, you've never studied economics in your life, now sit down and take the leaving cert. You'd be like, how about no, since I don't know anything about it? Well, do you know what? It's no different as an employer. When I started managing people first, sure, I had no idea how to do it. I had no idea. Who taught me? And then, of course, I had to go and learn. And this is something that the European Commission has funded, is this initiative here called Ambition to Employ. And this is a free course available online. It was put together, an EU Erasmus Plus project that's funded by Europe, bringing together project partners in the UK, Poland, Spain, Denmark, and Ireland. I actually worked with the people who were making this happen. The very end, they were telling me all about it, and I was saying, this is so what I could have done with, because you'd be a lot less anxious about how all of this works if you actually knew how to do it right, and also then how to get the most from your employees and how to give the most to your employees as well. Okay, so those were the key things that I wanted to share with you this evening, all around employment and the economy. Is just to bring it back around again, is that first of all, employment has a big impact on the economy, in the sustainability of people's financial, simply their finances, but also their upskilling and their ability to earn more money in the future. It also matters for the marginal propensity to consume. It matters for so many things like that. Then as an economist, it's important to look at where are the jobs of the future and where are they declining, and how do we create policy responses for those. Then it's also important to understand where what people want in the future of the world of work. Like you said, you really want to be able to do what you like to do. That's precisely what you said. That was what you wanted first and foremost. We know people want work-life balance. We know people want to make an impact. We also know people want money, but they also want other things. So this is all what's important as well in looking forward. And then I gave you 3 problems. I gave you the first problem, just going to go back there and you can just see exactly what they were. And you can, let me go back there. The first one there is, we need people to meet the employment opportunities in the economy. That's the first one, arising from where jobs are rising, and also of course where jobs are falling. Then I also asked you about how do we meet the STEM job opportunities shortage all around the world. And then the third one I gave you there is small businesses being nervous about taking on full-time staff. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop over here now, and I am going to just going to pop up that main one there. I'm just going to now talk through a couple of the questions that have come in. If you have any questions at this stage, now is a great time to pop them into the chat, and I will or into questions. You can either put them into questions altogether. The questions are right up here in front of me. If you have any questions at all, and I'll answer as many as I can. A couple of things there that have come into me over the past while that I just want to make sure that I address. Okay, and they are, have them all here. When I say I have them all, I have some, because they haven't been many, which is all good. Okay, so a couple of things that I would just recommend as regards the research study is, remember to put in the word count. There is a space there in the digital completion booklet to put in the word count, and it's a good idea to make sure that you actually have that in there, because that is what it is asking for. You see there now, yeah. So just make sure that when it asks for that, that you put that in. Secondly, and this is really important from an exam technique point of view, another thing to bear in mind is, I'm just making sure the questions are in front of me, and is to bear in mind is link the aims to the learning outcomes of the chapters in the book. It's not because the learning outcomes in the book are the be all and end all, but because they relate specifically to the syllabus. So just make sure that you're linking the aims of the study, not the course, the aims of the study, the research study, to those, to particularly those learning outcome statements. That can really help you. And then if you need to amend them, you can do that. And also, if you mention something, this is another thing, if you mention something, reference it. So you might say something like, the Irish unemployment level in Ireland right now is 20.4%. That is higher or lower than the European average. But if you mention that, say what the European average is and reference it. That's what I mean. Also, map the lines of your line of inquiry to the end. It's not enough at the end of the study to say, so that met the line of inquiry. It's just really check if it did, because that's something that naturally enough that they will be looking for. At least two people came to me that said they want to do something in the stock market. How do you link that to something in the book? Well, if you look at the area around the factors of production, one of the factors of production is capital. The market economy, get this for you right now. So like if you look at we have a whole strand here on what can markets do. And one of them is the market for capital, right? So just remember land, labor, capital and enterprise, and the demand for capital and anything to do with capital, of course, relates to the stock market. So that is where you could look at the economic theme in there. Somebody then also sent me a message to say that they're struggling putting in the theme of sustainability. Struggling with the theme of sustainability and trying to put that in. Sustainability is everywhere. Like if you think about what is sustainability, again, like we define it here, sustainability is, I'm paraphrasing now, I'm giving you the very simple version. Sustainability is keeping something going. That's what it is. That is to sustain. So in the environment is how do we keep the planet alive to be able to sustain humankind? How do we sustain financially? How do we sustain the economy so that people can continue to live in their homes and feed themselves and go about life in their normal way? That is what sustainability is. Now, we define it here as if something is sustainable, it means it can be upheld or defended. It means that we can keep something at a certain level. It is the ability to continue a defined behavior indefinitely. That's all sustainability is. So as long as you can think about an angle of that, that is what's really important. I see people there sending me in specific questions related to it, so I'll get to as many of those as possible. Also, another person said to me that they noticed on the front of the book, I don't know how they saw it, but fair play to them. They saw that I did my CFA exams, and they said, if you're interested from a career point of view in studying the CFA exams, which is all to do with finance and investment, and there's a big part of economics in it, how do you find out more? So what I would suggest that you do is that you check out the CFA website, but particularly there is, I'll just put it up here, there is a society in Ireland and you could reach out to them directly. So it's CFA Society Ireland. I'm sure they have a contact area there. That's where you can find out lots more information about that. So thank you to that person who sent in that question. Okay, now what are you telling me here? Is plus or minus 10% of the word count okay? Asks Fiona. Now, Fiona, I would go back to the specification there, and does the specification allow for a word count to be plus or minus? That is always, yeah, it says, there you go, on the specification there, it says the two sections of your project must not exceed a total length of 1,500 words. So more than more than that, and also, of course, it's 16 pages as well. I wouldn't do it. Under that, of course, you could, but it says it must not exceed a total length of 1,500 words. So just bear that in mind. Now, Sean asks me here, do I think, what are you asking me to think about? Sorry. Do I think that there will be any further accommodations to the Leaving Cert due to more missed class time? I have no idea, Sean, not a clue. I don't do anything in the department. I don't work with them at all, and I don't work with the SEC at all. I don't work with them at all, so I have absolutely no idea. I'm looking at the same news as you are, trying to absorb it as fast as I can. Fabian, the specification states that students should investigate employment and unemployment figures on a wide variety of factors such as gender, age, etc. What are your thoughts on this? Surely students wouldn't have to learn off a huge range of data. Now, I don't think that the whole idea there is learning off the data. I think it's interpreting the data. And definitely when it came to writing this area then for the book, like within the chapter, we have those tables, you've seen those, we have the tables of the gender and so on like that. So I don't think the whole idea is to be able to remember, remember a lot of data. It's to investigate the data and to understand the interactions of it. Like, for example, just there when I was mentioning STEM, some people mentioned that there's a lower number of women who work in STEM. I could say there's a higher number of women who work as nurses. So it's looking at those, or also it might be looking at maybe are there more younger people working in technology, and what does that mean? Like what does that mean as time goes on? And of course, the other thing, just to mention that as well, is geographical connections as well. Are there more people who are unemployed in a certain part of the country, and how do we tackle that? I think that's the element, is to investigate it. Roisin says, how do you link COVID's impact on small business to the book? I'm not entirely sure how you would be linking to the book. If you're asking about, like, in terms in here, how can you take something out of here to talk about COVID? Well, if you're to talk about the impact, or like if you think about demand at all, and what hampers demand, for example, if there's a lockdown, then if we look at the actual factors of demand alone, right? We open up here, demand, sustainable, down here. Assumptions, right? Law of demand. I'm looking here for, yes, the demand function, right? So here, right? I'm on page 64. The demand function is made up of the price of the good itself, the price of other goods in comparison, the income of the consumer. Has that been hit by COVID? Consumers' expectations around future prices. Has inflation been affected by COVID? Consumer tastes or preferences. Has that been, well, COVID or not? Like maybe an awful lot more people choose to maybe watch Netflix now rather than doing something else. So is it their preference? Well, they kind of have little else choice, but it's a preference. Unplanned factors, COVID, and government regulations, COVID again. So there you go, Roisin, and that's just in the demand. And of course, demand for companies' products and services. I could go all over the book and get it for you there. Killian, how do you link sustainability of central bank policies with the curriculum? Right, yeah, some of you there have said thank you. You're very welcome, guys. Sustainability of central bank policies. Well, I'm not entirely sure what you mean there. If you mean, for example, like low interest rates, because they have been doing that since 2008, and how long can they keep that going? You could certainly link that in with the role of the central bank. You could also link it in with the money supply, and all around monetary policy. Obviously, anything to do with the central bank has to do with monetary policy. Now, I'm not 100% sure of exactly what you're asking me, but I hope that's helpful there, Killian. Cian, could the stock market be linked to the strand in the book about supply and demand, as during the dip that occurred, demand increased in stocks and supply decreased? Now, I would check about the supply. I'm not sure supply decreased. Supply of stocks decreased. Demand might have. Yeah, I mean, and you could check that. Now, do you know what else you could do though? Actually, Cian, is think about is equilibrium. Is think about when demand equals supply, right? Obviously, we've equilibrium, and when demand goes up. So, how did the stock market rebalance itself towards the well, as demand increased? What did that mean for equilibrium? Well, then it meant prices were higher, and then what did that mean? So if prices were higher, well, then it meant that people's portfolios were higher, maybe pension funds were higher, or it means that the household wealth of the country was higher as a result of the price going up, or of course, keen on the price going down. Sarah, do you think the projects and the paper will be marked easier because it's the first year of the new course? I haven't a clue, Sarah. I really don't know. I haven't a clue. I am no way involved whatsoever in marking any of them. I wasn't in any way involved in setting them, so I have absolutely no idea at all. I'm the same as you. Sean, with regard to choosing one of the two topics for the project, is it okay to briefly mention the other topic as long as you have the one that is more predominant? I suppose you could, but you'd want to be careful, Sean, because you could be using up a good few words doing that. And when you ask me, is it okay? I don't know, because I won't be correcting it, and I wasn't involved in marking it, but I would just be careful with your word count. There, you could maybe just refer to whatever you're referring to, without necessarily referring to the other research topic or calling it that. Just be careful with your word count. Let me see. Then finally, Jessica says, is there any learning outcomes from the syllabus that could be linked to sport sustainability specifically? having taken a social outlook on the topic. Sport. Jessica, could you just maybe follow up there? Do you mean the importance of sport in people's well-being? Is that what you mean? When you talk, just tell me there. If you just tell me, follow on there and tell me. I am going to take a quick look in here now for you, and let me just see what I would think about that. Well, as an example, government intervention in the market. Did you see there today? Now, I didn't get a chance to read into it there, Jessica, but that there's going to be 71 million spent in Croke Park. As I say, I didn't read into it, but I wonder, is any of that money coming from the government? Oh, right, yeah, okay. No, sorry. So she answered with, yeah, a focus on financial loss for people in the economy. So, for example, the government intervention in the economy would be, let's say, through funding sport, and thus that is there to enable people to have more social sustainability and be more well. There's also some great infographics about the impact of sport on the CSO, Jessica, as well. I would check those out. But I would particularly, that's where I would look at. Now, there is also the other area around satisficing that we write about in sustainability as well. Brian taught me that. Brian, as you know, there's 3 authors. There's me and Brian and Trudy, and Brian taught me the term to satisfice, which is to sufficiently satisfy. So social sustainability is here, and take a look there in the book around satisficing. So satisficing is basically, there comes a point, you can have a look for it there anyway, Jessica, and you'll see it. There comes a point at which if you offered me more money to work more, I would say no, because the value of my time off goes higher. So if you ask me, right, you work a 4-hour day, Susan, I'm going to pay you 100 euros to work another hour, I would say yes. If I worked a 14-hour day, I would say, oh, really? If I worked a 20-hour day, well, then an hour extra sleep matters more than the money. That's satisficing. There comes a point at which you stop valuing the money that you get paid to work because you value your time off more so. That is that whole idea. Okay, Alex, I'm doing my project on, okay, I won't elaborate much. Do you think it'd be a good idea to talk about, oh, sorry, okay, it's broad. You said, I'm doing my project on the environmental impact of COVID. Do you think it would be a good idea to talk about how social, economic, and sustainability are interlinked and connected? If it's relevant, Alex, if it's relevant, it would be maybe useful, but if it's relevant, that's the answer. So then Jessica said, would the cost benefit analysis be a good outcome to use based off government support? Well, it's a good tool to use, but I'm not exactly sure, again, the context of your question. You said, would it be a good outcome to use? I think you mean it would be a good tool to use? In other words, is a cost benefit analysis of government support, does it lead to good outcomes, or are outcomes, beneficial outcomes that are better than the cost? Oh, you mean as a learning outcome? Oh, yeah, that would be a good idea there, Jessica. Yeah, that would be a good idea. Yeah, because then you're looking at, now I just have to check what the learning outcome is, but cost benefit analysis based off government support, and obviously tying it into government, let's say, support. Then yeah, that sounds like that would make sense. But again, you know, you'd have to see and make your own judgment. Okay, everyone, I think I've answered all the questions. Thank you all very much for being here with me. There will be a summary, of course, up on positiveeconomics.ie. Also, please do register on positiveeconomics.ie as well if you'd like to be made aware of future webinars. That's what we're here for. I will be back to you again later on, of course, in the year. I'll be back to you again very soon to talk to you about our next topic. In the meantime, of course, you all know that the date of submission for the research study is between the 8th and the 12th of February through the portal. And so I wish you all sincerely the very best of wishes as you complete that. Thanks indeed to everybody, and there's a load of thankses coming in here. You're very, very welcome. It's my pleasure. Delighted to be here with you. And as I say, I wish you every success in the next couple of weeks. Thank you all, and goodbye.